Uh, Hello, today we are gathered to conduct another debate, and the topic that we got today is multitasking is beneficial. And I will be supporting this motion, and I should be against it. So let us start. We already took around 2 minutes to ideate, and let us start. One, go. Okay. As I introduce, I would like to state about CPUs, the central processing unit in a computer, and it is mostly designed to conduct multitasking because a uni processing process CPU will not be ideal. The major reason why CPU is programmed in the phase of multitasking is so that it does not remain idle when idle, and the resources are allocated very efficiently. So this is in terms of CPU or the programming world. We can clearly see that multitasking is very important and it is beneficial. But let me ask from the human perspective. But when I was thinking about human perspective, I was again very much convinced that multitasking is the need for the hour, and I have strong three more points to support this ideology. Firstly, life you expect the unexpected. It is not like you'll sit for one thing and you'll just get it done. There'll be so many things amidst that work which might also be very important that can arise, and you will have to address them. So it is not really possible and or ideal to sit for one work completely and then switch to another. Okay, and I have some two examples, my daily examples, which I could relate to with multitasking. Firstly, I would say about when I'm on call with somebody, like if it is a long hour call or some 30-40 minutes call, I will mostly go for walk, and while talking to that person, I'll have my walk done, and it will be very like an exercise to me. Secondly, I when I go to college, if I'm in bus, I would listen to some podcast, which is like I'm traveling along with I'm listening to some podcast. So it is like I'm doing multitasking. So these are some of the two examples that I could come with impromptu. Like if I could think more, I'll be able to get generate many more such examples. Second closest point that I have is I have spoken so far about parallel programming, like doing two works at the same time. But multitasking is also seen in the concurrent working. Like there are like it avoids you from burnout. Like if you are doing science for 30 minutes, you can just switch to some other subject, so that you don't really feel burnout by one subject, and like you have a fresh start. And some concepts like of pomodoro technique also support this ideology. Like you can just rest for 5 minutes, you can again start. So this is another example for concurrent tasking, and which is also part of multitask. And lastly, I would say, and one of my strongest point is most of the industry work does not work in sequential order. Like it is not like you'll do first front end, then you'll work on back end. You have to assign some task to somebody, and that is also like like somebody, a team will be working on front end, a team will be working on back end, a team will be working on marketing. So this is like you will have to do multitasking at that time. Like doing sequentially is not really possible. So these are some strong points why strongly believe that multitasking is more beneficial than normal sequential task. Over to Aish.
I strongly believe that multitasking is a kind of an illusion and not something that will save our time. As it is easier to believe, like if we do multitask, that is, we do multiple tasks simultaneously, then we might end up saving time. But if we see in the reality, that is not always the case. We are not really computers, and we don't have anything like a CPU in our mind. We have a brain, though it is incredibly powerful, but not as good as the CPU, I would say. And human brain is designed not to like juggle between different tasks and focus on a single task. And like instead of trying to do multiple tasks, we should focus on like one particular task and get it done, and I believe we should move to the next task. There are various techniques we can use. Like there was a popular concept called flow state. That is, if we do something which is very difficult, or then we will easily lose interest in doing it. Or if we do something which is really easy, and like we will not feel more challenge enough. And during this situation, we mostly try to multitask because the tasks are not either too easy or too hard. So it's better to if we choose some tasks which are like doable but yet at the same time challenging enough. that will help us to not multitask and get more things done instead of just under the illusion that you are getting most things done. And like taking an example of maybe a student who is studying for something while also listening to music, and on the other tab there is some music going on, or like he's chatting with someone at the same time, maybe ordering some stuff. You are not really, if you believe that your main task is studying, but you will not be able to comprehend your material. Instead, if you spend the same time only for studying, you might have been able to do it much better and in a quicker way. And if you like try to multitask, you will at that moment you will feel you are doing something productive, but when you try to recollect it whatever you have studied, you won't be able to do it. So for that reasons, I don't really think multitasking is beneficial. uh, and also the examples which my opponent mentioned about walking and talking on a call, or while going in the bus listening to some podcast or music maybe. But I don't really believe those tasks are can be categorized as multitasking, because one of those tasks is like walking or like sitting in the bus is effortless. You don't really have to put too much efforts. Whereas if you are like studying or side by side emailing someone, that switches your mind constantly and you won't be able to focus on one thing. And I don't really think that that will count as a multitasking. uh, yeah, that's my take on multitasking is not really productive, I think.
Rebuttal phase. Yeah, go ahead.
Rebuttal
You can
phase.
start with the question. Uh,
Mute.
yes, you can start questioning, Ayush.
Uh, do you have any questions first?
Um, okay, just to clarify, like you have mentioned that what multiple multitasking is doing multiple tasks at the same time. So isn't like irrespective of the task being very hard or very easy, isn't it smart to do multitasking in that perspective? As I said, like while traveling, you can watch podcast, which could otherwise take a lot of your other time.
But again, if you are focusing on two things at the one time, you won't be able, like at that moment you will be able to listen to the podcast, but you won't be able to comprehend anything. So for that reason, I don't think even though you technically can multitask, but it will be of any beneficial and any benefit. So I don't really think doing that will help you in any way.
Any question from your
Also,
side?
like if you are like driving or also listening to something at the same time, you are like your reaction time will probably decrease, and like if you need to suddenly break or like take an emergency stop or something, you they're highly likely that you won't be able to do it correctly, and you might uh, end up injuring someone or even yourself. Yeah.
Firstly, I wasn't mentioning about drivers. In this case, I was mentioning about a passenger. Like I have specifically said that while traveling in the bus, so I'm not mentioning about drivers. And the other thing is, I still believe that it is like it won't drain away my energy to listen to the drain away my focus. Like if I can simply handle it well. Any question from your side, Ayush? Okay, another question I would like to ask you is about if an industry thinks not to multitask, and if it is like take for example software development only, if they go like first front end then back end then this, won't they lose a lot of time, irrespective if they made more teams and like each team focusing on something else would be more beneficial? Don't you feel so?
But if you are making teams, then there are different people working at a different task. Like not one people will juggle between all everything. Like there will be a separate team who will handle the front end, and a separate team who will handle the back end maybe, and like maybe there are separate designing team, and not a single person handling everything. uh, and again, if like a single person or it's a small company maybe and he's handling everything, then even in that case he will not like juggle between everything. It's like a continuous task where the next step requires the previous step, and you're not really multitasking at such. You are doing one thing at a time. Like either you are doing front end at one time, and you are doing like once it is done, there's something of back end required, and that time you do that task, and not like doing front end and back end both at the same time, because you can only do one thing at a time. Right?
I think what you're saying, like the previous example which I mentioned of the burst and all, were parallel tasking. But another phase of multitasking is concurrent tasking. Like I'm not saying it's humanly not possible to look at two screens or do front end and back end coding at the same time. But what I'm saying is concurrent tasking. Do front end, switch to back end, do back end, switch to front end, like concurrent shifts.
Yeah, but again, you're not really multitasking, right? You're switching the task. You're like doing one task and then doing the another task. I don't really think you are. I guess you mentioned it is concurrent, not really like parallel task.
Do you have any questions?
So let us take an example of a student who is studying for something and meanwhile also listening to music. And don't you think that he will end up taking more time to study? And like whereas if he had only had studied for that particular time, particular duration of time, he will be more productive.
Uh, okay, to answer that question, it depends on person to person. Like I know some people listening to White's music, and it White I think White music, and it helps.
Right, nice.
Yes, it helps those people. And some people even listen to lo-fi music while working, and it helps. I would also draw attention to like my mother waking up early morning, or my parents waking up early morning, playing some bhajans, and then cooking simultaneously, which also helps them. Like, so I would say it helps some people.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions.
Yes. Okay, we can go ahead with the feedback part.
Yeah. So from feedback, yeah, you started with I am supporting that motion. So is it motion or notion?
It is motion. Like in debate, we
M
say motion.
M O.
Mo mo. We can still confirm,
Okay.
but in debate they say this house believe in this motion.
Okay. Yeah, you could have given a good example of you were like slightly on that part, but not really what I was expecting. Like you mentioned about the cooking example, and like even in cooking, you can't really focus on one task at the time. Maybe you have like while boiling something, you simultaneously cut the vegetables.
Uh,
That is
that
that could be considered multitasking,
multitasking.
right?
Yes, yes.
Otherwise, you will have to like boil, then again wait for 30 minutes, then cut the vegetables. In that scenario, multitasking is like very much possible.
Cooking
And
was a really good
another
example.
thing you yeah, and another thing you could have mentioned, again, you were on that track, but not exactly what I was expecting. Like when I asked about the student listening to music, you could have just mentioned something like it is scientifically proven that white noises or the lo-fi music can enhance your brain activity or something kind of.
Yes, yes,
Uh, like sounds kind of true, at least, even though you don't really know it.
yes.
And another example could be that white noise. So if you are studying somewhere where there is like you don't really have a quiet environment and you are like some kind of noise is there in the background, in that scenarios you have to listen to the white noise or something of that sort to help you focus. Otherwise it is not really possible to focus in the noisy environment. We could have mentioned this.
Yes. Any more feedback?
And a good thing you mentioned was about the concurrent and parallel. I actually wrote that point, but I thought you were not going to mention it, so I just wrote it at first only. So
Uh-huh.
that was a good use of the vocab group.
Yes, yes.
What was the third one? Concurrent, parallel, and
Sequential.
sequential. Yeah. Okay.
Mm, one feedback that I really agree to was generation of more examples. Like the cooking example was so good, like really very good. Like
Hmm.
I should have said something in that. Like for
Hmm.
do you have more feedback, or can I tell you?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you can go ahead.
For you, I would say, okay. Your points weren't very distinct. I found just one point which you mentioned, which was also what you have said in the rebuttal phase. So I think you should have, like, maybe the other side did not have much points, but I did not find them clear. And nothing else. Like you once you have said that in the point section, do not counter the other person, let that be in the rebuttal phase. But
Yeah.
then you said about the some opponent statement, and even CPU you mentioned a little bit. So yes, yes.
Yeah, I was thinking, but otherwise my point would have been like,
Yeah, yeah,
I got over within 30 seconds or
yes,
something.
yes, yes, understood. Mm, nothing else. Yeah, we can. I think from other perspective.
Honestly, there is nothing from my side to speak. If you
No, no,
can,
just try, just try.
think I will do that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Multi from others. No multitasking. Hmm. Ayush, you need more time?
Mm. I just have some examples,
Yeah,
not
example.
really any point as such. Like the walking example and like talking to someone or while walking, listening to something, it's usually easier to do and you won't really require too much efforts. Even I agree with that part. Like if one task is effortless, like walking or like you are going somewhere in a bus or something, you can always listen to something or like talk to someone. You can get those work done, like the non-essential task, but not urgent task, but kind of important task, like maybe talking to someone. You can easily do it while walking. That
Hmm.
will also help you to like save your time. Like if you have limited time in your day, and if you like speak to someone like for 1 hour while not doing anything, it's kind of a waste of time. Not totally, but you can also focus on other things,
Yes.
and you won't really miss out anything. And maybe like if you're working out in the gym, you will prefer actually to listen to some music because it makes the workout more fun. Otherwise, it will be more dull. Or like maybe doing some mundane tasks like copying some assignments.
Hmm.
That's a bad thing, but still. Uh, or what is the other example? And maybe like washing utensils, doing the dishes, the regular chores like mopping the floors, which don't really require too much effort from your side. That time you could listen to something. It makes the task more fun. But again, this point could be countered sometimes, like by saying, like if you like totally focus on one thing, you will become more mindful. It is kind like doing chores or like mopping the floor, like example, mopping the floor or doing the dishes. It's a some form of meditation. I heard this somewhere, so it depends. But like we're not are like a saint or something, so we have to get done with our day-to-day life, and we should multitask at times but not always.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, from your side, firstly, I would say uh, accidents are very much possible in like if you do multitasking, and like you could have given example of drivers like uh, that was partly said in the rebuttal phase, but you could have mentioned something in that line. Secondly, one point I think you should have said is about the anxiety. You won't focus on the thing you have in hand right now. You'll be focusing on something else, which can which could be very harmful for you. And thirdly, you could have supported like with the fact like agile model and waterfall model. Even the timetable we went in the school, they are all sequential, and like scientifically it is good to follow that. And logically also, like you won't be able to do many things at the same time.
Hmm.
Yeah, group
this
discussion.
this
Yeah.
topic we could have done like a better introduction, like Imagine a life where a student is
Hmm.
taught history, science, maths at the same time. Do you think the student will be able to study something?
Yes,
Some
yes,
there was lots of opportunities to be more creative.
yes, yes, yes. From my side, I don't know if it was felt in that way. What I wanted to think was, from the machine perspective. Then imagine, is it possible in the human life, and then connect with the 3 points which I have read. So this was
Mhm.
my basic structure in mind.
Intentionally.
Intentions. Okay, group
Yeah,
discussion.
it kind of sounded like that. Yeah.
But I have heard this somewhere in one of the videos, that when you use the word imagine, it creates a lot of effect. And I think I should have used the word imagine, like imagine, or something like breaking your thoughts into something else.
Yeah, I agree. Like it kind of like
It's,
brings your attention to focus on something or like start imagining,
yes,
like builds a picture in your mind. I
mind,
feel.
yes. Okay, Ayush, we'll group discuss. What do you find better?
Depends on task, but usually multitasking is kind of required in today's world.
Hmm. Yes. One more thing, I was just playing with words. I think concurrent tasking is not multitasking. Only parallel tasking is multitasking.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes, I was just like I did
Also,
not.
you mentioned the switching the task. It's not really multitasking, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Even I don't believe that. Oh no, it could be the other way also. In CPU, just telling. Okay, in your OS, when there were just one core, single core. Now we have 8 cores. Like it is like 8 CPUs working together. But before there was just a single core, and that time
Mhm.
how there used to be multitasking. Do you know? It used to be like, there are two tasks. If I'm listening to music in Spotify, and if I'm writing on the notepad. Okay, what used to happen is, a notepad, whatever I was writing in the notepad, it used to process for maybe 2 seconds. Then it was switching there. Then it was getting processed whatever there. Then it was switching here. Like it used to switch among the stuffs. So that was multitasking.
Hmm.
So I think we are right. Concurrent switching is also multiple tasking, multitasking. But nowadays we have
Probably.
more cores, so it is like many CPUs working together. So this is parallel tasking. So this is all obviously
Hmm.
multitasking. Okay, then. Okay, the question was, what do you support more? I think, yeah, some mundane tasks, as you have mentioned, like going for walk or talking with somebody. That time you can just do multitasking. Otherwise, if there is any serious work, I think multitasking is not good. Even as
Yeah.
like even doing small things like making a PPT, just sit there, do it, and just get it done.
Yeah. It's like kind of important to know what you are doing. Otherwise, it would be like our case competition. Before like starting the PPT, we should have some materials with us. Otherwise, we will start one slide, then go back to the finding materials, and again, like that time, some another task will come, and
Yes.
from that another task will come. That time, you will remember you have to call someone, you have to go attend your nature's call, and you won't be able to get back to the PPT. So it's required in serious task you can't really multi in serious work you cannot really multitask, but the mundane task you can prefer multitasking.
Yes. Yes. Is there a rule saying that most of the work could be done in the first 5 minutes when you're starting?
I don't know.
Nothing, no? Uh-huh.
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay, let's go to ChatGPT Phase.
Something similar on that line, like whatever task you are finding really tough, like do it for first 2 to 5 minutes, and
Uh-huh.
then you will more likely to do continue doing it.
Uh,
I only preach this but don't really practice this.
yes, let's do ChatGPT Phase. Ayush.
Another like in the intro, I could have mentioned something like some studies shows that whenever you hear a ring from your phone, your mind diverts and you get to that
Ah,
task. And again, coming back to task, you won't be able to give your like in the same flow which you were in the initial task. Something
yes,
I could have
that would have been a
like
nice example.
I did this in somewhere in between,
Yes, yes. Uh, okay, one feedback I'm giving to you, Ayush. I think you're not thinking enough.
probably.
Even when you have to think from my side, you just give up that you won't be able to think. I think you should little push yourself.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. And it was also one of the points you mentioned in the SWOT analysis. that you should generate more points.
Yes, I remember.
Let's go to ChatGPT phase. We need more time, Ayush?
Yeah, you can start. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, Ayush.
Yeah.
From my side, I kind of thought about this, like leader or whoever is like CEO or any person who is leading the project, he will have multiple responsibilities, so he will have to multitask. Secondly, about multitasking, it makes you more adaptable as a person. You can, like, if anything comes at a time, like I have mentioned that you have to expect the unexpected, but the correct word which could which could have supported it was adaptability, and I
Hmm.
should have used it. From your side, I think we covered everything, like mistakes. You are tend to do more mistakes, and deep focus you already said, so nothing else. Do you have any points?
Yeah. Like one example would be like in certain jobs you require to multitask. A popular example would be like customer service, where you are simultaneously listening to a customer speaking, meanwhile trying to solve his issue, like
Ah,
trying to check his order or something.
nice.
In that scenarios, if you are not able to multitask, you won't be able to do your job properly. And I think it's kind of related, required at almost all the jobs. You not really, you cannot be mindful about one task completely unless it's like some kind of creative work maybe. And like whenever you multitask, you like there won't be any mental block as such. Like sometimes during, like taking example of student, he have to study multiple things, and
Mm.
like, if he gets that things done, he will feel like he has already done it, and in back of his mind there won't be anything like I have to do this, I have to do that. If you get it done right away, then you will feel slightly better. It depends from, like, depends on task, so we cannot really take it as a rule or something.
Yeah. That's it. Uh, Anything to add,
Yeah.
or we are good to go?
Yeah, we are good.
Yes. I'm stopping the meet. Thanks for coming, Ayush. It was really great.